Good morning. Here we are at Leah's, getting ready for episode 2 in our continuing saga of the longarm quilter. Poppy and I are excited to see you today. She drove us down here to almost to Ronan to visit. She thought it was a pretty good drive. She thought maybe there were treats at the end, but she was supposed to stay in the car, but instead she rolled the window down by herself and jumped out. So she is here to greet us also as our official greeter. But most important person here today is Leah Emerson, who we visited with before about long arm quilting. And at What the Stitch, we like to explore different things that are available to the quilters around. One of the main things that we offer is access to a number of long arm quilters. Leah does a great job with it. She picks them up at our shop, brings them back, so it makes it easy for you to drop them off. We have the paperwork there. We have the book for you to look at and pick out your design, or you can just leave it up to her discretion as to the design and maybe the thread color. But it's a great option for those of you who don't like to quilt on your domestic machine. Those of you who maybe are doing a bigger project than you can do on your domestic machine. A lot of us do placemats and table runners on our smaller machines, but when it comes time to do a twin quilt or a king or a queen quilt, we want somebody who has the long arm machine to be able to do that. But Leah can also do those table runners and placemats. She probably has some tricks as to how she puts them onto the machine. And some of us like to do that. Some of us don't like to do that. So keep in mind that there are people out there to help you with any of the quilting on any of your projects. But today we have this fun little quilt that Gwen dropped off, that actually her mother-in-law, who is 96 years old, lives over in Billings, had made, and Gwen kind of did a few little assists on it, but brought it in, and it's ready to go on the long arm machine. So we've got the panel. The quilt here was made from a panel. It's flannel, just got a great soft feel to it. A real basic little quilt, but it'll have special memories because it was made, by probably great grandma. So and I think Gwen will probably put a label on it. She's fairly good at that, just to let people know when the quilt was made and who made it. This quilt is going to be backed with what's called Minky or Cuddle. It's a product made by Shannon Company. This is called Dimple because of these little bumps on it. This is going to end up being a real soft, cuddly quilt. We've got the batting here that's going to go in it. That's just regular.
This has BHOBs.
BHOBs batting. And Gwen did do something with her batting that some people don't know you can do. She pieced it. You know how you oftentimes end up with all these pieces of batting and they're not big enough for your next project? There's a tape that presses on. We have that at the shop, or you can zigzag this stitch and you can put pieces of batting together to make a new piece big enough for your quilt so you don't end up with this pile of batting. So Leah is ready. It looks like she's got the thread here.
And I would only suggest when you piece batting together, just make sure that you do right sides to right side, or they have both right sides up, because there is a right side and a wrong side except for polyester, and that you use the same kind of batting. So I've had folks sometimes fuse a lighter weight batting with a heavier weight batting or whatever, and that's a little bit of a tension challenge. So just kind of stick with one product would be good.
And remember, last time we learned that batting has a right side and a wrong side. That was a great inspiration for some of us.
I need to grab some pins here. Sorry. Should have had those over here. Nope, you're good. All right, so to put this on the machine, of course, I do a lot of measurement ahead of time to make sure that the batting and the backing are larger than the quilt top. And the bigger the quilt, the more important that is. So I think that at least my order sheet says 4 inches all the way around. With smaller quilts, you can get by with a little bit less. With bigger quilts, it's really critically important. So to put it on, you fold the backing in half so that you can identify where the center is. And then the leader on the quilt machine has a mark on it that shows you where the center needs to go. And so I just position that. And for most quilts, this will be a situation where the edge of the fabric goes onto the edge of the leader so that they're lined up together. And then we just,
where's the mark?
The mark is right there.
Oh, nice.
Okay, and it's on all the leaders, so you can always find the center of it. So then that just lays out there for a second. And then the batting is going to go on. And again, if you look for right sides and wrong sides here, identify the center. That goes onto the leader in exactly the same fashion. So we're just doing right along the edge. We'll take that pin out.
You get your stretching exercise and get a lot of steps in putting this in too. So, you know, you can call it your morning exercise program.
And then the top, and when you put the top on the machine, of course, you have to pay some attention to which direction does things go. You know, what's the top of the, some quilts doesn't matter, but some are directional. This one, you know, you want the animals going in the right direction in regards to the pantograph that you're going to use. So again, just identify the center.
In choosing your pantograph, is it important to think about maybe the size of your panel blocks or anything?
Yes.
Or does that really matter?
It matters to some degree. So there are some very large pantographs. So in fact, yesterday I have one that's it's a Western. It has cowboy boots and cowboy hats, and it's 15 inches wide. Well, you probably don't want that for a lap quilt or a baby quilt because that's a really, really large pattern. And so that's hard to just kind of, you know, and unfortunately, most pantographs that's the size they are. So you can't make them bigger or smaller. Mm-hmm. There are a few pantographs that come with several sizes printed, and then that works fine, but most of the time not. So it's probably a good idea to just look at, if you have a small project, does this pantograph that you chose, you know, is that going to cover the area well, be as dense or as not dense as you want it to be, and, you know, those are the considerations, I guess, that I would give to that. So this gets pinned on here. I'm doing it at an awkward angle because I'm used to it.
Well, I mean, Jess could move and film you from a different place if there's an easier way for you to do that.
Okay, yeah. If she films me from this direction on this side, that's probably easier. Then I'll have to face that way, unfortunately. You know, when you're right-handed, you're going to have to do things a particular way. So all three of these are essentially lined up even with the edge of the leader. And there is a way, and Susan, early on when I was doing these quilts, challenged me to figure out a way to do it. If somebody wants to use the backing and pull it up around to form the binding to this quilt, how do you do that? And so it is possible to do that, but folks just have to let me know. And then what happens is that backing fabric doesn't go on the edge of the leader. I actually put it out for 2.5 inches so that there's extra fabric there that somebody can use to fold up over and use for the binding if that's the way they want to finish their quilt. So it took me a while to figure that out.
Oh, well, I'm glad I offered you a challenge.
Yes, yes. Susan said, no, I've done this. Other people have done this. It's like, oh, okay. Since I was sort of self-taught, it takes me sometimes a little while to sort of figure things out. Okay, and so then you have this extra that just kind of, and in this instance, that's just plenty of extra, that there's going to be fabric left over. And I, I can't speak for all quilters, but certainly I return all usable pieces to the quilter because they're the ones that own it. They bought it. And so if there's extra batting, if there's extra fabric, once the quilt is trimmed, all of that goes back to the quilter so they can use it in another project if they want to.
Well, and
That's
for
pretty
those of you
important.
that do back quilts with Minky and you end up with a piece that's too small to use for a lot of projects, we would take those pieces at the shop because we use those extra strips. Like here, there's going to be about, oh,
Yeah.
8 inches of
Yeah.
Minky here. That gives us enough to cut pieces out to make the teddy bears that we make for the foster care program.
Great
So
idea.
if you end up with Minky and don't want to keep those smaller scraps around and don't want to sew them together or put them into another project, let us know at the shop and we'll take those to use in our teddy bear project, because that's one of the things we do. We help Diane Byers put together the bags that go to the foster care program. There's charity quilts that go into those, and either a little bunny if it's a quilt for an infant, teddy bear for kind of that 2 to 10-year range, and then above that she'll take pieces of Minky and sew them together and make pillows to put in the bags. So that's just one of the charity programs that we help with. And in fact, be watching our calendar, because we have Sew Day coming up in May where we're going to be making the bags for those charity quilts.
That's a great idea. Okay, so then this just kind of gets rolled up to leave 4 to 6 inches of leader there. And you can see how long it took to do the pinning for this quilt, which is relatively small. It takes a lot longer for a queen or king size quilt. And then the 2 bars on the back side, and the one gets lifted up, and the backing fabric is attached to this bar. So I have opted in recent years, actually probably the last 5 or 6 or 7 years, to use a different way to fasten the fabric to the far leaders, because it's so much faster, and it really doesn't significantly impact how close that you can get to that far edge of the quilt.
Pause. Oh, never mind.
Never mind, no pause.
There was lag. That's okay.
We had a bit of a glitch. Okay, so this goes so much faster, and really makes the timing of putting everything on a lot more simple, I guess.
Can you use